Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 3 of the DDT Podcast. And just when you thought the original and the sequel couldn't get any bigger and better, ladies and gentlemen, I am bringing in a guest who has a little bit more tenure in my own universe mode, and somebody who I've spent a lot of time off and on chatting with and actually getting the chance to meet, which has been one of my favorite memories. But he is, in my series, a man who is a one-time NXT Tag Team Champion with Isaac Steele. He has been a stellar member of the call community, even if he's been kind of on the outside of it. His contributions, in my opinion, are still second to none. He's a brilliant and bright personality in the wrestling world. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome Bundy to the podcast. Welcome, man.
Damn, I wasn't really. You ever like have those moments where like the curtains, you have to peek through the curtains to walk through? I was looking. Like, he's talking about me, right?
You know, I love how every single person kind of has this shocked reaction to me praising them and giving them full sincerity. Like, it was Austin, it was Gex, and now it's you, just like, hey man, I'm just speaking from the heart. And I do it all on improv. I don't pre-write it out. I just go with my gut.
That's a skill set. You should profit off of that one. Definitely maximize that.
I should make a universe mode series.
Absolutely.
Make it an egregious 10 seasons and 500 plus episodes.
That'll work.
Or a YouTube channel that'll span 9 years. Yeah. Or a podcast.
And do like universe mode in-house, and it's just everyone out of the ring.
Or I could do like a podcast that, 60 people. By the way, as a quick thing, thank you everybody for the support on the first and the second podcast videos. It's 60 plus views on the first one, and then I think over 20 on the second one. Honestly, the fact that it even got that much traction is very humbling, and I'm glad that it reaffirms that I still want to offer this outlet to people such as Bundy, Zero, Gex, and more to come on and kind of introduce themselves and to help shed a light into the call community or the wrestling world in of itself. But Bundy, I want to also express my gratitude to you. You sound great. You look great, even though I can't see you.
I'm doing push-ups right now. Just waiting.
Hey, it was crazy how we got this set up, because it turned into I don't have anybody really lined up next. And then you were immediately like, I'll do it. Shoot.
It just felt right. It's an honor, to say the least.
Really? An honor? That's very generous.
What you guys don't know is your host here it's an incredible man behind the camera. Brilliant mind, as he says.
As I say. Oh man, feel exposed. Like somehow I'm egotistical.
He's a five-time.
No, I'm only a 3-time world champion. Yeah, 3-time. I'm only a 3-time world champion in my series.
No, I was 2 off. Whoops.
Yeah. I mean, you're a 1-time tag team champion. 18. I think it was 18 episode title reign.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. And still going on because I haven't finished the series.
That's fair.
That feud with Isaac Steele will come to a head. I'm excited to try and write the conclusion of that.
And make sure you guys tune in for when it comes out. Run up the numbers for him, please, because I've been watching, I've been observing, and this man has done something that I believe most people can't, and that is catch my attention for a long period of time for Universe Mode.
Well, that's because you got your own personal investment, wouldn't you say? Or are you talking about just all-encompassing for the series?
All-encompassing. You know what's crazy? I usually don't even watch Universe Mode for like where my personal character is in. I usually watch for the whole show. Like I sometimes forget that I'm part of the roster.
Well, you're on the NXT roster.
Right. But it's like I see the card and I'm like, oh, yay. But before that, I'm like, I can't wait to see this match, and this match.
Well, literally, so like I did the Royal Rumble, and then kind of a snowball or a cascade of events happened. I had to get a new PC, so because my laptop was burning out, and that's where all my stuff was. So I finally got. So that kind of like put everything on hold for like a month. I was able to stream because I had written out like the plans, but it was finding a day for it. And then after that, it was like, okay, well, now I need a new PC. I got the new PC, but then it was trying to set up all the software. Okay, well, once that was done, another month later, all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I got to find a day to really sit down and write. And it keeps turning into one of these things where I really want to just write it out and make sure it's as perfect as possible. But then you run into busy days, busy schedules, constantly doing your own things in your personal life. And I want to get back to it so badly. It's just to write the conclusion. I've had so many conclusions to this series that I do want to cap it off on a high note and finish season 10. But it's a long time, and I apologize for everyone that's been silently waiting, hoping that Mad finally puts out a video.
Speaking of waiting, we're all waiting to hear, how did you start Universe Mode? What was the inspiration or the starting moment?
I should have figured, and I should have said this beforehand to people. This man teed it up for me beforehand, and he did say that, I'm going to be on this podcast, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but I'm going to ask you questions. It's like, okay. Very well, if that's how you want to use your special airing to get questions out of me. Even though this is about you.
I want to multitask.
Okay. How did I start Universe Mode? Was that the question?
Yeah.
Like, how did it come to be, or just like?
I guess not necessarily how it came to be, because I figured that when we play like 2K games, essentially everyone plays Universe Mode. But I guess to get it to where it is now, what was like the match to the flame, like what started like the process and how it snowballed into what it is to be 10 seasons in.
So kind of the if you look back at, if you use the filter on the channel to most popular, kind of the thing that kicked it off was, back in 2015, I want to say, I was just making gaming videos, and I wanted to try a concept where there's a series focused around one character, which became Matt King, and you upgrade through points. It was this whole system where the story is focused around one character, and you just go along each episode, kind of like you clip out a show where it's only this person's scenes in it. But then I kind of figured that that'll run its course, and what didn't help was that I was recording it all on my phone. But I eventually reached the point where I was like, okay, I got to do something different. I want to make this more streamlined, more of like a weekly show, but not weekly. Like, I set up a whole schedule where it's like, all right, 12 episodes for Raw, SmackDown, NXT. We'll do a pay-per-view after each one, or each set of them. We'll insert a takeover every 2 pay-per-views. I really was pretty quick about it in terms of setting up that formula and then sticking to it. So there was a Universe Mode series I did. I think I locked it all away at this point, but it was like 2 seasons long, a preliminary test. And that was kind of the trial run back in 2015, 2016, where I just tried it out. And that's where you had Tyler Wolf, myself, Mr. Samuel. I created Samuel Armstrong, Yuri Yamashita, Adrian Galerto. So like the core 6 that really were the foundation. And both those guys were like, "Hey, let's stick with it. Like, we'll remake the characters for you. We'll do this new format." So I rebooted it, and the original plan was only 4 seasons. Obviously that changed, but it was all that test run was all fine tuning it to what I wanted match cards, like how many matches do I want to do each show? Do I want to insert segments? So everything kind of had a slow evolution as I got older and as I learned new things and expanded my repertoire. But dude, I could go into all the nitty gritty. But
Yeah, because I've seen. I remember when I watched the first 3 seasons, and I was like, okay, this is something special. But I will say, I can also see how you've improved from the first 3 seasons.
yeah, there's things that haven't changed. Like, I like doing myself versus the CPU. Can it be a little formulaic and predictable to people who've watched for a long time? Yeah, like on who might win or lose. The stress level does not go away. The stress every single live match is next level to make it as good
Right.
as possible. But yeah, the first 3 seasons I was not as focused on the booking, like storytelling aspect, like the matches in
Mm.
between, setting up rivalries. It was kind of more so just like, yeah, we'll use logic booking or somewhat logic booking. I'm gonna say that now. We'll have people go through NXT. We'll promote them up to the system. We'll give people title shots, opportunities. It was much more watered down and simplistic. And over time, it slowly evolved as other people were like, "Yeah, I want to join. I want to join. I want to join," and the roster just exploded
Right.
in terms of who was there.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Thank you for the compliment, by the way. As for you, though, because this show is about you, and we'll have just kind of a back and forth here. What got you into wrestling? What was like that moment that brought you into wrestling, or what was your first memory of wrestling?
That's a, that's a complicated question because I don't want to say that it was. So the thing is, for me, my my experience with wrestling, like the first moment I can remember is like something briefly when I was a lot younger that I didn't really remember as much until I got older and I realized that was my first company that I even looked at, and that was ECW. And it was when Christian and Jack Swagger had those 2 matches back and forth for the ECW World Championship. And that was when I was watching, like ever so briefly, and I was tuned in a little bit. And I don't remember what year that was, but then it really started to elevate when I started watching TNA and WWE at the same time. So I was watching Batista and Rey Mysterio and their feud, but then on TNA, I'm a ginormous AJ Styles fan, so I was just watching TNA. I was like, yeah, this is great. And I remember every time TNA came on, because it used to come on Spike, my mom used to be like, "What is it that you're watching on this channel?" I used to be like, "I promise you, it's wrestling." So that's like the earliest memory I can think of is Motor City Machine Guns versus Beer Money. So it's like Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin versus like James Storm and Bobby Roode. Like that's the earliest memory I can think of where I'm like, okay, this is something that I can get into.
I gotcha. And then with that said, who would you say is kind of been were any of those guys the influential wrestler to you, or was it like AJ Styles, for example, as you brought up?
I think it's a combination. I think that as I started to take my love for wrestling more seriously in terms of like watching it and like really being, skeptical, critical, understanding the booking, understanding like the storytelling that's occurring, like the ring psychology. Because as we get into hobbies, you learn more about what it is that we're looking at. And so for me, I think it was like I'll say at the top, number one would be AJ Styles, most certainly, as an influence for taking the most, I guess I'll say taking the front seat, taking the driver's wheel, I will, in my wrestling experience. Wherever AJ went is where my eyes went to watch. And I think that everyone else after the fact, I realized that there's something different because I would swap from TNA to WWE back and forth, and then ECW was still going on. So I was watching like ECW, WWE, TNA all at the same time, and there was something that I liked because it was refreshing. TNA had the 6-sided ring, or was it 5? It was 6, right?
It
Yeah, I
was
think it was 6.
yeah, six.
So flip flopping the X Division Championship, amazing. So it's just, I think what I appreciated, although AJ Styles was at the forefront, I liked seeing the difference between companies. And then lo and behold, as I got older, boom, I'm in Japan now, watching New Japan, and that's where things kind of exploded from there, and I started watching everything.
Well, there you go. And that kind of took you around the early 2010s, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
It's crazy how important wrestling has become over time, and sometimes I can feel burnout from watching wrestling. I guess even recently, as much as I love wrestling, I haven't been around as much, but I do appreciate, like, looking back what I thought my Mount Rushmore was, like, starting out to like what it was to what it is now, and it's like, okay, there's some depth to it. There's some personal understanding. Like, I enjoy watching the business evolve.
Are you keeping up with the product right now, like AEW, WWE, TNA,
Yes
anything?
and no. I'm not watching actively, but I am watching pay-per-views for AEW, and I am watching pay-per-views for New Japan, and I'm watching NXT for WWE,
Okay.
and kind of keeping tabs on the Bloodline stuff because I was waiting for Gorillas of Destiny and Jacob Fatu to come to WWE, and I was really curious about that. So I've been watching what I want to watch. NXT, I've been taking a little bit more of a direct approach in watching and just watching the pay-per-views, but AEW, I've only been watching the pay-per-views.
Okay. Because I was gonna say, me personally, from watching the product, I don't keep up with AEW. Like, I'll see the occasional stuff from pay-per-views, or somebody will send me something, but I just, I don't know. Like, there's wrestlers I'm attracted to in the product, and that's kind of who I'll follow. Like Daniel Bryan, I'll keep tabs on, or Bryan Danielson for others. I'm trying to think some other names. Private Party, I always thought was super cool, even though I know that they've never gotten a big push. Darby Allin on the occasion, but I'm not fully hooked with that character, so to speak. MJF, but it's like in doses on who I keep up with. But with that said,
Right.
like NXT, so you watch weekly for NXT.
Yeah.
Do you have like a
I
favorite
will say
wrestler?
I do find more enjoyment watching AEW in Japan, but I still like keeping up with NXT for the same reason that, like, there are guys that I want to see how they do, like Trick Williams, Obafemi, the current North American champion, Sean Spears in this capacity, Ethan Page, Joe Hendry from TNA was appearing on NXT, and they had a crossover. So, and the Rascals are going back and forth. I like watching that because I'm like, okay, we're starting to reach an area where people are going to start saying, like, this is the best time for wrestling. Although it may not reflect that in the numbers overall if we compare it to back in the day, but this is wrestling at its finest.
Well, I like that. So the evolution of NXT, it was
Right.
originally developmental, and then it became developmental slash like a product that's actually like up there in terms of quality, that's combating the main roster, and at times surpassed it for a lot of fans, like diehard fans.
Yeah.
And then they hit their hard reset, which I think was a Vince thing, which a lot of people hated, obviously, because if you have a good thing going, why change it? But
Yeah, that was one thing I did too. NXT 2.0, when it came out, I was like, all right, I'm not sure why we needed this.
I think so. What took me a little bit of time getting used to is that it kind of felt like a hard reset. And to be honest, in a way, I'm very appreciative that it did happen, because
Right.
now when I watch it, I'm trying to look through the lens of these people, for the most part, are either veterans that are trying to impart knowledge upon the young guys, or it's young people that we could see as future breakout stars. Carmelo Hayes, Trick Williams, I mean, bar none, are future stars at the rate they're going.
Right.
Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez. I'm going to butcher her name, but I think it's Giuliani.
I believe so.
Obafemi, I think, is a stellar, like, on debut. I'm like, holy cow. Ethan Page,
We have a
I
monster on our
shocked
hands.
by. So there's so many people, and there's even like the new guys. Oh, I can't remember who's gonna fight Randy Orton next week. It's
Oh, Jay. Oh wow, Jay Malachi, or is it Malachi? All I remember is that his finisher is a springboard cutter.
Yeah, I feel so bad that I can't recall the name off the top of my head. But
I'm
he's
pretty sure
but
it's
he's
Jay
bright new.
Malachi.
Like, he's 21. So like,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Jay Malachi. I think I could be wrong, but like that shouldn't be so specific in my head.
right. But like what I like about NXT is that when you look through the lens of, okay, these are people that are developing right before our eyes, which is truly what NXT should be. I like that
Right.
it's that plus they're very good in the ring. So it's coupled, like, it's a mixture of newer, truly fresh faces that could be the breakout star versus, oh, that legend from TNA or Ring of Honor, or these people are coming in like these big blockbuster stars. Now it's like, okay, we have to manufacture the new talents, the new rising
Right.
stars
And I think that's a
systematically.
good idea. That's definitely a good pivot they should have used. But I guess it just changed, not in a bad way either, the magnitude of what NXT was doing. Because beforehand we had Joe, Nakamura, Bobby Roode, some mad heavy hitters coming in through NXT, and now it's kind of like we still got some heavy hitters essentially, but at the same time, the point is to break through the stars that they want to see in the future roster. And that's one thing that I always criticized WWE for, was not being able to utilize their young talent to break through. So that way they have talent for the next 20, 30 years that are built up, ready to go, and the crowd still wants to see their face.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's what they're doing now. I mean, I like the fact that they're taking such a pivot with the product.
Right.
I like the change in the product, and I think I was talking about it with people. We were having a discussion when I was doing my WrestleMania posters on Instagram, um, because I was trying to figure out what era this is. Like, what are we labeling it as? And I ultimately just made a decision. I'm saying that the cinematic era was 2020 to 2024. That, like, WrestleMania 40. This to me feels like everyone's talking about how the Renaissance era has already begun. I feel like once Cody kind of won the title, the cinematic era is kind of over, because it was this large
Yeah.
cinematic story, and we're still getting it, but it feels like we're in that Renaissance period where wrestling, to me, like, even just talking to other people who don't really watch the product, it feels like it's talked about more in a capacity that hasn't been talked about, shoot, when I was younger, watching early 2010s,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
good.
It's good for the business.
I agree. I don't see many people talking about AEW though. No, I'm kidding.
No, a lot of people, ironically, I get it. If you don't like the product, you don't like the product. However, when people take the time out their day, it's like the same people commenting under every AEW post, and they're like, this is hot garbage, or they flip different ways to say it's trash. To me, it's like, all right, now you have to be following the product, because there's no way that you have all of this to say and you're under every single post. Like, it's not all bad. And the crazy thing about it is that I think that it's the identity of AEW that I think that people need to, if they can get an identity that, like, grounds themselves and are able to say, hey, this is what we do, and stick to that, they're going to keep on going. And then, so I think that people misunderstand what it's like to be a new business in such a dominating industry, because you have WWE, which is like the one that stands above all, and it's still working with others like TNA. But then you have AEW, where it's like they're trying to get their footing, to trying to be a household name. And I think a lot of people give it too much hate. Like, AEW is not perfect in any capacity, but I think people give it too much hate when they're trying to build something that stands alone, that people enjoy for the most part.
I would agree. I do think that there are a lot of flaws with it, but so WWE has its flaws too. I do think the product is stronger than it has been since. Gosh, I mean, so here's what's funny. Everyone that I talk to, we occasionally have this topic of what was that key pivotal turnaround moment. I had people talking about how it was AEW being created. I had people saying that it was Edge returning. I had people saying it was Cody Rhodes jumping ship. To me, there's so many moments to pick from, because, like, during this dark era of WWE where Vince is at the tail end, it felt like there's the occasional bright spot, and then the rest is just, man, this is insufferable.
Just koala slobber, just bad decisions.
Yeah. So I wouldn't. my answer to that, if people are going to ask me, is that I feel like it's a collection of slowly building things, which is funny because we have, and this is in no way a jab at Tony Khan, like a direct stab, but there was a quote just recently that he doesn't do long-term booking or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. Let me just specify that. I'm paraphrasing his quote, so it's not verbatim. But it was something along the lines of he just books weekly, pretty much. He doesn't really... I can't remember if he said he doesn't believe that you can do long-term booking anymore, or it's hard to do anymore. But for me, it's like, but that's... Like, long-term booking should be your plan, because you want to snowball up to those big events, those big moments. You want to create this cascade of events. You want to do kind of like... I'm going to throw out a weird reference for you. Reaganomics. I'm gonna use that that word in terms of a trickle down effect. You wanna create that, because I think it was Paul Heyman who started talking about it. And now I'm going into my own booking, my thinking. But this is like what I try to think about as a booker, is that you want to create a trickle down effect. You want to utilize the talent at the top of the card to build up the mid card. And once you build up a big enough mid card, you use the mid card to build up the small guys, and the small guys look more valid. So then if you're able to build up a validation, then you could take somebody from the mid card and put them up with several main eventers and still feel legit. It might be a little bit random on your booking, but there are so many, then you have so many avenues and so much depth in your roster, and it feels like anybody could be a valid threat if given the opportunity. And I think that's what WWE has slowly built up over the past 2-3 years with the talent that they've had, to where I'm like, shoot, somebody could disappear for several months and then come back, and I'm like, oh crap, okay, this is something. Like Bronson Reed, I'm already like, dude, put him in a world title match, and I don't even know how you'd book it. I just want to see it. Like,
you just want to see it,
yeah.
And I think that's the part that people have to understand. Once AEW was created, like, the business became, as John Cena says, the business is competitive. You know, it's good for business. We thrive under competition, and whether or not WWE saw it as competition, they saw it as an opportunity for viewers to be snatched from them. And I think, to your point, AEW has the capacity to do exactly that, the trickle down effect. And I think the problem is that they used to, and this is where my criticisms go for AEW, because we had a time period where we had, this is perfect exactly the way it is, and then we pivoted to something else. And so the only stories that I find to be relevant are, if a new star comes in, now we're automatically doing this, that, and the third. Like when Ricochet came into AEW, now we're automatically doing Ospreay versus Ricochet. Too early in my opinion, but hey. But then we have Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness. Again, you know, shades of Ring of Honor. And so there's so many matches. I think he's trying to pull in these dream matches that pull in numbers and pull in views. But at some point, he's got to let the roster that he's paying perform, and he has to put them on top, whether it's Dante Martin or Leo Rush. And I think sometimes Bandito appears too. So there's so many stars that they can put in the mid card and make the TNT title feel like what it was when Cody and Darby and Guevara held it, or even when Christian Cage solidified the TNT title to be prestigious almost more than the world title.
Well, like another example would be, oh shoot, I just had it. Crap, I'm blanking. It was, oh, I just had it. It wasn't Ricochet. I mean, okay, so I'm gonna go down this avenue, and hopefully I find my point, just instead of me just spinning wheels. So I apologize. This is not going to be exactly what I was talking about or what I had in mind to rebuttal you. So I apologize. But like Ricochet comes in, and it's immediately like, all right, we got to do that match. We got to do the match that everyone talks about. To your point about how we got to like pull in the numbers. We got to do in the numbers. But oh, that's what it was. So we're just doing this match, but we'll weave a little bit of storytelling in it, which is cool. But it's like, why not build that over a year? Why not build that to something? Do like rivalries in between and slowly build up Ricochet. I get that you want to do the big match, but then where do you go from there? Like, who wins? And then how do you book the two guys going from? So that's the problem with constantly doing those dream matches is, like, why not put them in a tag team at first? Why not have them on good terms and then slowly have... And I know that sounds kind of harsh to just, put them in a tag team. I would write it completely differently on how to set that up and then execute it. But Like, do a slower burn to it than just, all right, we're going to set it up in like 2 months' time and do this match.
I
Okay.
think that's the
Oh,
interesting
that's
part too, is the booking. The booking in itself. You know what's crazy? I think Tony has started to take the reins, but you know what I will give Tony grace for? Figuring out what his booking is going to be like. Because in the beginning, it gave, oh, this is New Japan style booking. Like, this is definitely booked the way New Japan would book their stuff, except they tweaked it and they were like, these are things we don't like. Let's capitalize on the things we don't like. And now I think Tony grabbing the reins is trying to figure out, okay, so who are we as a company? But I think he's missing the mark. But I also think sometimes he's hitting the mark. Like Adam Page and the evolution of Adam Page alone is what makes him like up there for me
Yep.
easily. MJF, the four pillars, him being able to write those four pillars and be able to put them in a match. Like he's done some pretty amazing stuff that I don't think if the reins were given to Vince or Hunter, I don't think they could replicate. But at the same time, there were, I mean, vice versa. There are plenty of things that Vince and Hunter that I don't think Tony will ever be able to replicate.
No, and I think so. So for an example in the booking, this is where I scratch my head at some things. You want to build up the younger talent. Okay, well, you as an identity, you pull the trigger on Darby getting the title shot, and then you rip it away from him. And here's how they booked it. And I'm missing a lot of the details because, of course, I want to add this before anybody puts down in the comment section. I already specified beforehand, I don't watch the product religiously on AEW. I get cliff notes, I get sent clips, so I don't watch it religiously. So I apologize if I miss out on details that weren't specified. But Darby, in this scene that I was shown, just agrees to giving Moxley an opportunity for his world title opportunity. You tracking what I'm saying? Darby earned a title shot, and then Moxley's like, well, I want your title shot. Okay, well, I'll just give you the opportunity. Why? Why would you do that? Here's a bright idea. Just say no.
I didn't like that either.
Like, that to me was just like a glaring plot hole. And I didn't even have any context on how Darby got the title shot, or I just knew Moxley turned heel and wanted to fight Bryan, which, sure, made sense. But I would have done it a different way where Darby's the one stepping up to Bryan, and then you have the commentator, Nigel McGuinness, who could actually attack Darby Allin, or you have Moxley attack and beat down Darby until basically he's hospitalized and then guns for it because he's like, oh, there's nobody left. Da-da-da-da-da. So it just seemed weird to book it that way where I'm like, well, that seemed really dumb. Why would you... Like, in my writing, I would never just be like, oh, yeah, we'll just... Although I say that, and maybe I have done that. But it's like, what does Darby have to prove?
Next to Swerve and Adam Page, like, Swerve just bought his childhood house, and Adam Page burned it down. And so, like, when you have those story elements, like, beside each other, I'm like, is this the same person who's booking this?
Yes. So I where I was going to go with that as well is I think WWE has way more depth and knowledge. I get that AEW has so many veterans, but I feel like WWE has such a huge depth pool of veterans for in-ring training, writing, even though their writing is shoddy sometimes, like a shotgun. Yeah, I just feel like WWE has more of their stuff on lockdown, but that's probably because they're a bigger brand. But I digress.
Yeah, because there's some factors that I think the problem is that, like, I feel like if you're a diehard wrestling fan, and I'm not going to speak for everyone, I feel like now we're in a space where it's like we can't be satisfied by everything going on in one company.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a problem currently at the same time where, like, you should be able to watch all of a product and be like, hey, I'm content with that. And then go to the next product and be like, hey, I'm content with that. This does its own thing. But I think that we've gotten to a point where everything is starting to not necessarily miss, because me personally, the thing that I like about AEW, and although their promos are not always the greatest, there's something raw and, like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, something raw and skill that AEW brings that NXT and main roster don't necessarily capitalize off of.
Talking about like grittiness?
Yeah, like even the fact that Swerve is like Killmonger from Black Panther, and like Hangman is just like batshit crazy cowboy now, or MJF being the way he is, or even Ospreay. Like there's a star power that is so unique to certain characters. Like even Bryan Danielson, as much as we've been around him for so long. There's something that makes them stand out to such a capacity that I don't believe that on other rosters that star power exists, knowing that those rosters are stacked. And I think New Japan has the same problem now as WWE in some regards.
Well, I think New Japan has, I mean, I haven't been keeping up with New Japan for a while, but I think they have several larger problems in their own organization from what I've read, what I've seen. I think their problem is they just haven't built up enough new stars.
And they keep giving the belt back to old stars.
Yeah, and they're aging. And then that's not to say Naito is old. Naito, Okada, like you gotta build up the new talent. You have to really try and experiment. I mean, I get, like, Roman had to eventually lose the belt, and the talking point was, who's he going to lose it to? I know Gunther's up there in years, but on the same cusp you have, for every aging veteran like Randy Orton and Roman Reigns, you have the Trick Williams, the Carmelo Hayes, the Andrade, and I think Andrade's in his 30s. But you get my point, where it's the younger faces where it's like, oh, shoot, well, these guys could really just step
Braun
up.
Breaker being a future. And it's just, for me, it's just like New Japan. It's like, once you lost Okada, you should have known that, oh, we should have pulled that gun on Naito a long time ago. Oh, we need to start building up more guys so that way we have more people to hold the straps. So it's like, I think everywhere the business is in an awkward space right now. Everyone's not doing everything. I guess it's the best way to put
everything that they could for, like you have CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre, but then it feels like the Judgment Day storyline is a step behind, where it's like it's not quite there. But here's the thing: I'm still enjoying the product. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
It's just, and maybe it's because I've been spoiled on me trying to write my own stuff. And granted, I haven't written everything flawlessly. I do run into the same situations that the companies run into. But it feels like, we're just like, there's just one step behind. I'm still enjoying it, but there's just, you got to push it just one more step. Like, this tweak could really help it. But I'm trying to sit back and watch from the lens of, it's not me in there. Although I've applied for jobs to work for both companies, I'm trying to remind myself it's not my company, it's not my job.
Yeah.
Even though I love it for me to, I would love that to be my job.
If anybody who views wants to give him a reference, that way we can get his foot in the door so he can sit behind that screen and be a booker, by all means, if y'all can get him to the door, I would appreciate it.
Dude,
he's done a lot for 2K. He needs to do a lot for wrestling.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it doesn't even need to be a booker or a writer. Like, I'd love to do commentary. I'd love to do the digital edits I do on Instagram for the company. I'd love to do just anything. And you send your resume over, and they just tell you, yeah, we liked your resume, da-da-da-da-da. We're going with somebody else. And it's like, man, I've reached out to, like, local companies, wrestling companies, never got a response. And it's like, man, I would love to be in the business in some capacity, to just do something for some wrestling company. Yeah, because it's like, I've bled wrestling for so long, and it's what I want to do, and couple that with so many interests, and you manage this, and it's like, maybe I don't have enough big of a brand, maybe I don't have as much attraction as other people. Like, what do I have to do? I'm not a masterful editor like Cam is for RW, or OCW with their editing skills, but gosh dang, the dedication or the work that you put in behind the scenes to try and book correctly, the stressful nights and everything else, you want the payoff to be worth it. To where it's like, even though this is a hobby, I want this. Like, I want it so bad.
Right. But I think the passion is what drives us. You know, it's not, I think, you know, when I first started, like, trying to just explore passions, I think one of the greatest advice I've ever gotten was work like you're making money now. So that way, when you do start making money, that work ethic never changes. And so I think there's a hunger that comes with it that, like, you know, say for if you have the passion behind it, you just work. You work because you love it. And then at some point, hopefully it pays you.
That's a good point. I mean, Yeah, so what's funny you mentioned that, and this is a little bit of a pivot. I've had people tell me that they wanted to pay me for logos before, and I mentioned this on Gex's podcast. I don't.
So I heard when I was watching. You make sure you guys tune into Gex's episode too.
Good shout out. Yeah, I just don't accept money for how I make the logos. Like I just made an Undisputed Era one, and you pull like, I think that was 30, 35, 45 layers of images, and then you add a bunch of filters and lighting, and it's like, well, this is all somebody else's stuff. Like the WWE photographed the wrestlers. Somebody else made it into a PNG file. Somebody else made this.
Right.
Like I shouldn't take money from this. But I would have, I think I've mentioned it before, somebody close to me, they were like, hey, you made this edit. I really would like for you to print this out on a canvas. And I went through a medium to do that. And that was a humbling experience because it was the first time somebody had ever asked me to, like, hey, I wanted like a physical memento of stuff you've made. So
right, and they want your specific expertise, your specific and I think that's amazing stuff right there. When people ask for your vision or people ask for your touch on things.
But to that point, and I paid for it. I paid for an entity to make it into a canvas, like a wall canvas, and that entity did it, and I just gave it to them for no cost. I know it cost me money, but I'm like, it's a gift. I don't, and I'm not immediately throwing it out there like, oh, if I ever open it up to anybody, I'm gonna give them all away for free. Like I'll pay for all of them.
Right, but you lead with generosity and you lead with the passion of it. Yeah, I get that 1,000%. It's never been about, are you going to pay me first? I feel like one thing that's for businesses is like, you have to be more about the people. You got to be more about the morality that you put forward, like the work you want to put in. And so I think that's the better thing to lead with, as opposed to being like, if it doesn't pay me, I won't be there.
Yeah, but like if I started charging people for that, for example, like one thing that runs through my mind is, okay, well, I'd have to charge more than what the vendor charges me to make a profit off it, or at least break even. So like it's the rough thing to do, and then I don't want to start taking people's money, and then it's like, okay, well, I'm just making incremental. Oh, I should charge more. It turns into a whole business that, yes, I can do it. Could it be profitable? Maybe. Could I make a little bit of extra cash on the side? Yes, maybe. I don't, like, my following on those posters is like 36 on Instagram. Like nobody follows me. And that's not me throwing sour grapes. That is in no way. It's because it's never been my focus to just be like, grow the brand,
to market,
market. Even though that's
that's
been part of what I want to do in the industry. I want to be in business. I want to do marketing. I want to do that kind of stuff, which is hilarious because I'm almost counter marketing, where I'll put my name out there, but I'm more so under the lines of do goodwill, and your good deeds will pay you back eventually. Like you do good for other people, and other people are like, oh yeah, I subscribe to your channel. I'll go like a video or something. I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, I appreciate you. It's less of, oh, go check out my other products. And Gex even said after the podcast, he was like, oh, I should have totally pulled one of these where it's like, oh yeah, look at all these images on Mad whatever on his Instagram. Just to promote me, and I was like, you suck. Don't do that.
You gotta plug them in. You gotta plug them in.
My
I
goal
think
is
I'm
to
still
plug
working
you
on that
guys.
comfortability of plugging people in. But I want to do a quick pivot because I realized something. I could ask you this. What was it like starting out in the 2K community? Like just starting to touch that other side of the community where it's not just a game anymore. Now we're building something. We're working on story, character, lining up matches. Like, what was that like for you starting out?
Were you talking about me getting involved in the community, or are you talking about my universe mode?
I would say getting involved in the community.
Okay.
For example, like RW, like that wasn't the first time I feel like you've been in that type of space before. So like what really started you out in similar spaces like that?
Okay. So I was doing universe mode, and several guys lent me their characters, and I'm gonna list them here. Scott Cole, so Death Boy, Braden McLaughlin, Troy, who made Jeff Sanders, MK88, and Assassin. Though that crew that came into the Universe Mode series, they all ran a federation. That's what opened up the door, because they were constantly playing around with the idea of inviting somebody over. So as a way to give back, I agreed to do dates for them. So like, I'll be a manager for this one wrestler. I'll do this promo for you. I'll be a commentator on this one show. I'll do these things. I'll commentate on a match. I'll give you guys like a character I'll make up. So that was kind of the first step into the door. But I knew that it wasn't, because of my time commitment, I didn't want to add all that stress to myself of running the Universe Mode, trying to keep track of everything, and then committing a full-time schedule. But that group, and I apologize to that cast on the name slipping my mind on what it was called. I think I got banned from it at one point. One of the guys just laid the ban hammer on me. I think I was talking in a comment section, and he was just being rude, so I was kind of just replying back. Either way, I can't remember the full details. I think I got kicked from the group because of that one guy. Either way, I'm going down a rabbit hole. That was the window. That crew. So then when I came to Retaliate Wrestling is RW. That was the group that Bundy was in. I was introduced to a gentleman named Max, I believe was his wrestling name.
Max Myers, yeah.
Yeah. So that was
shout out T.I. Romeo.
So he messaged me. I can't remember the connection. I think it was through Discord or YouTube comments. Either way, he hooked me to meeting Cam, Bundy, Christian, and the whole cast of RW, which they were trying to wrap up for WrestleMania. And again, I know there was some stuff behind the scenes. I was very much like, I don't want to commit to a full-time schedule because I'm trying to do other things. But I wound up doing commentary for their 4th WrestleMania, which I was insanely grateful for. I helped write the build-up for it. That was the biggest side project I've ever gotten to be a part of. But I had a little bit of experience on being like a guest, offering up help, where I was like, hey, I can do this. Like, this is something I do all the time. I can try and help where I can to alleviate some of the pressure. And I had a blast. Now at this point, I'm just kind of I don't even think an advisory role. People invite me to their federations, like CWF, the Frost Federation, ZWZ, Starbound. There's a bunch of others that I was invited to, and I eventually left because I wasn't doing anything. But it always turns into me just giving an advisory role of some kind, and nobody really taps me for advice. So I'm just a lurker. Just sit quietly.
I just come here.
Yeah, I just read the messages, and I'm like, Which I suppose I could offer up my 2 cents, but I'm more so like, hey, they never asked me, so I don't want to be rude. It's your company, it's your show. Sorry, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, it did. That's fair.
Well, on that note, was RW your first experience in the call community, or did you?
Actually, yeah. It was.
Really?
It was something that I wanted to do full speed ahead for. As soon as Colin was the one who reached out to me and was like, "Hey, we want you to get on this," and so I watched their prior content, and I'm a very critical person of myself when it comes to things that I like to do or things that I think could be better. And so like one of those was like rewatching RW. I was like, okay, we're missing star power. We're missing this type of character. We're missing this type of skill in the ring. Like there needs to be something. They're missing something to up them to the next level. And so I was like, okay, what can I bring starting out that I can continue to build the product over time with. Like, what do we have to do with the roster? And I think at some point I was like, okay, I can do this for real. And of course, looking back, I think I did a lot of cringe work. Nonetheless, I don't think I did the best work I could have, but I feel like in the moment I tried to do what I thought would pivot the product forward.
I think you did a great job for what you had. My favorite moments from RW, like helping out with the work, was you and Christian. That rivalry going into RW WrestleMania 4, and then the subsequent or the follow-up match was, it was so much fun to call that match.
And me and Christian's match was so much fun.
I know I'm blowing smoke a little bit up both of your rear ends, but I really did enjoy it. It was so much, it's bringing a smile to my face. I had such a blast calling that. What was that like working with him?
I think Christian, of all people, was like the best one to work with because he was consistent. You know, he was on every call. He was in every meeting. Like, if me and Christian wanted to bounce off ideas, I can call him up easy. No shade to Max. Shout out T.I. Romeo again. He wasn't always the most consistent person to reach, even though I feel like he was a higher caliber of a person to have in the roster. It was like, okay, we're not utilizing all the cards we have in our hand. So I was like, okay, then we need to up Asher, we need to up Christian, or we need to revitalize and repackage Daniel or whoever else needs to come in. I always knew that, like, I never wanted to personally be champion. I never wanted to be the end all be all, but I wanted to be able to, help where I could help. And so with Christian, like, I think I got a little bit selfish for that one, because then I was like, okay, let's put on a damn show. Like, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna show I deserve to win. And I think it became kind of like a friendly rivalry, because then it was like, okay, so who's gonna do better in this match? How are we gonna outperform? And I think for the match too, we're like, all right, how are we gonna outdo the first one? So it just became such a nice thing to have.
Well, I think what's cool is you guys both took it so seriously, and I literally didn't have to do much effort in terms of behind the scenes to help write your rivalry, because you guys were pretty much just like, yeah, here's what I want to do. This is what we're going to do. All right, cool. Sounds good. Like, here's my cliff notes. You guys just add this into your promos, and that's pretty much it. And then the match, my favorite move to call was the C4, his finisher. I absolutely had so much fun with that. And then when he hit it on you in the match, oh my gosh. I think my call was like, "Did you feel that? It's a seismic eruption that has gone off in the building. It has shaken the rafters." Some shenanigans like that.
And it's crazy because if I had heard, I don't remember if we did that commentary live while the match was happening. Because if we did, I definitely got goosebumps, because I was like, all right, now we got something special.
No. So that commentary, how we did the commentary was that you guys recorded everything. You sent it to Cam.
Oh, and
Cam
the
got myself
after...
and Brady, I think. I think it was Brady who did commentary with me.
Yeah.
And then we watched it back, and he and I had recording or audio equipment, and Cam recorded our audio for it. So I was reacting solely off what I saw, but I told them, don't tell me don't tell me anything about the match. Don't show me anything about it beforehand. Just tell me, are there any replays? Is there anything else that can give us breaks? That was pretty much it. And everything else was 100% genuine. Like, that is my reaction.
Right. And that's the side of the business I never knew that I would experience, just like the 2K community. And I think that's something I always desired, for something similar to that nature, to that effect. And so once I became RW champion, I was like, okay, let's take this a step further. Let's pivot this for real. But I knew at the same time, once Max comes in as the babyface for WrestleMania, they wanted to do the long-term storytelling. I was like, okay, how can we lift the belt up more than lift me up?
And do you think you did that successfully?
I try to do my best.
Well, I like how it pivoted from you being in the world title to then dealing with Christian, who kind of came in as the guy who's desperate to prove himself as a top tier talent, and then his own desperation results in that heel turn, attacking and beating down you and going after you to try and leave his mark, and that's what sets up the feud for WrestleMania, and then you have the match. And I know that was kind of the end, but oh my gosh, I loved just the simplicity.
WrestleMania, I don't think I faced Christian during WrestleMania.
I thought you did.
I think I faced
Was it? Am I thinking of Daniel?
Steven. I faced Steven in WrestleMania.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I thought no, but you did fight eventually, right?
I faced Christian while I had the belt. When I had the strap, I had one title. I had two against
you.
Christian.
Did fight Steven. You did.
We had
Steven.
two matches. I think we had two matches. One with the belt on. I think that was Rumble.
Yes.
And then one with the belt off, I think, but I don't remember for some reason.
I'm so sorry. You have the right. Christian fought Asher at WrestleMania. Still my favorite call, but I think that was my hands down my favorite match out of all. Yeah, you fought Steven at WrestleMania. I'm so sorry about that.
No problem. And that match was fun, but I part of me wished I had took the magnitude to be like, okay, let's try to elevate this. I want to compete with the main event.
I mean, you were the kickoff match, but I still felt like it was a big deal. And then Asher and Christian, I thought, did a stellar job.
Yeah. And the thing about Christian's style, and ironically, it's crazy, talking about it from this perspective, his style is so digestible, and it has such a nice mix. And I think for me, I've always prided myself off of like creating my style to surround what my favorite wrestlers do and try to capitalize off of what I think they could do better. And so I think mixing those one grounded, one strike, somewhat high flyer moveset was like, okay, we either got a brawl or we got ourselves a fight.
Right. I think Christian had the most well-rounded moveset, and to couple that, when you had expressed interest in providing your character to the series, I sat there thinking, oh crap, like how do I make his moveset, how do I make his character unique to anything else that's coming through the door? I think that was the biggest challenge, because it's a smaller character in stature. What can I do with Bundy that I haven't done in the series? And make it into its own. And I wish I wrote you more consistently. I think that's one of my bigger... It's the smaller characters that I think I regret the most in not being just so methodical with everything as I could be.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's segments where it's like, oh, I should have added that segment to that episode looking back. This other subtle detail to do to you, because I like the subtle details with your character, what I did with them. I just wish I did it more consistently, but that's that was the difficult challenge with booking NXT, especially as we're going toward the end, is the roster is now full, except for like the tag team division, I think. But as far as single stars, there's so much there that it's like, oh, how do I find time to get this guy in here and get him his moments and to fit him here, which is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing because I want to devote my time to build up these guys. Like, man, I'd be elevating you. I think the plan was to, if I did an 11th season, heaven forbid, NXT North American Championship was on the table for you. And I'm not just saying that to be like, oh, I wish I had seen that. I think that was my plan, my trajectory, based upon how rivalries and feuds were going.
And it's crazy because when on the back end of RW, like towards the end, like I wanted to do tag teams. Like I wanted me and Christian to be tag team champs. I was like, okay, how can I get this to work? Because I've always wanted to push that on, but I've never seen in federations like actual tag teams where like, you get your tag in, do a couple unique moves, like the same way FTR have their combinations or the chemistry they have in ring. Like I've never seen them. So I was like, okay, I want to bring this to the table, but of course things didn't work out. So it's kind of ironically that as soon as I come to your universe mode, which is one of the greatest ones I've seen in my life, I would like to say, and I become tag champ, it's like, okay, I still got what I wanted.
Well, kind of the fun part with that booking was I introduced Isaac Steele, and he won the NXT title immediately. He had his feud with Ryan Trapp for the title. And then it was like, okay, well, what do I do with him from here? So that's where I instituted you, because I I pitched the idea of the intuitive one, the intellectual, the three I's: intelligence, ingenuity, and I can't remember the other I. I'd have to look at the old logo.
I actually don't remember what it was either for some reason.
But basically, you're a master strategist. So you basically negotiated your way into talking to him to become a tag team. Like, in the meantime, let's do this. Let's pursue this. And then you made certain deals to help elevate yourself and get you in higher spots. I think my favorite bit was just orchestrating that, and then you won the tag team titles, you held it, and then once you lost, Isaac Steele seemed like a step behind, like he didn't quite have it anymore and was becoming softer. So you're like, all right, I'm going to put you out of commission because you're a weak link. And then you started manipulating other people, just trying to mess with them, get in their heads. I think, so this is, you ready for this story idea?
Yeah.
If you're okay with the spoilers, because I don't think I would quite get there.
Mm-hmm.
I might execute it. So if people don't want spoilers or possible spoilers on Universe Mode,
click off.
You can just skip ahead a couple minutes. Basically, the idea that I was thinking about having was that you were going to manipulate the new heavy guys, like the big guys in the tag team division, into working with you. So they were going to be kind of like your lackeys. Not like goon lackeys, but like you were going to manipulate them into, you should really like find somebody that's more aggressive and fits your style, like somebody that can foresee things and help get you into higher positions like me.
Right.
And then we did the whole...
I've always wanted to be like I guess I'll use this as an example. He didn't have bodyguards, but Jeff Jarrett, I've always wanted to be that dislikable as a heel. Where I get the same hate the Jeff Jarrett guy. So
with that said, like the idea was that that's how you were going to slingshot into the North American Championship, is these two guys were going to basically cover you and help you get into that position. Either that or the NXT title. I'm 50-50 with it, but like the whole negotiation with you randomly getting the SmackDown Tag Team title. I think you just got that, if I remember correctly. Yeah, dude, I can't believe I made the graphic and I didn't add the SmackDown Tag Team Championship or mention that. I am so sorry about that.
It was no problem.
I am so sorry that I missed that detail, because that's important to me. The accolades are important to me. It might be just because I just booked that. You negotiated your way into the SmackDown Tag Team titles, which is another, like, your character sits in the background and basically just at random points it's like, how did this guy get into this position? And your excuse is basically like, well, you're basically not as good as leveraging information as I am. Like I'm basically going to tell them I can guarantee you that I can get the title, whereas your guys can't. Really, you think you can't? Oh yeah, I know I can. And then, okay, well then let's figure this out. And then you randomly pop
what's crazy? I wish at the peak of when I was like, I want to do this for real, I wish I had sent over a Joker outfit to use at some point.
Oh. I mean, either way, so really your accolades are one-time SmackDown Tag Team Champion and one-time NXT Tag Team Champion. So you're still a current title reign holder of the SmackDown Live Tag Team titles. I enjoy the fact that you've negotiated, like, you play behind the scenes. So your role or your character will sometimes disappear, but really what he's doing is finding ways to network and connect with management.
And not come back when it's convenient.
Yeah, randomly you'll pop up, and now we're about to pivot into the Isaac Steele storyline when he comes back to lead up to TakeOver. But I love that it's just like randomly popping up for SmackDown, and now you're a tag team champion, and everyone's like, what? How did that make any sense? And then it's like, well, Bundy's made connections with people, and that's all you really need to know. Like, it's straight to the point. He's the intuitive one.
Yeah, and it's, again, to your skill, you guys don't understand how good of a booker you guys have in your hands. Like, this man he's something else.
I feel like there's misses for me. Like,
I mean, everyone has slow days, but I think that, I mean, to be fair, it would be crazy if you just had 100% success rate. Like, that would be insane to me. That's intimidating on paper.
So there's obvious misfires on what I wish I did differently. Like the Ross Young world title reign, the ending of WrestleMania 3. I wish I could do differently. That's the standout one for me. I wish I gave him more legitimacy to his title reign. I wish I booked Adrian Galerto a little bit differently. I wish I could have made Davis King more legitimate to fans, but you can't force it. Like,
Yeah, you can't shove people down.
he's just always going to be the brother that wasn't Matt King. Like, it's...
Yeah.
And no matter what I do, it felt like I can never get him over. MK and Assassin, I wish I could have booked a little bit better. The ending of Bullet Club. Actually, no, I think I did Bullet Club pretty well in my series. I think I ended that decently. I just know that everyone wanted Rogue Killer to be the one to end it and not Davis King. So it's whatever. I do really like how that ended, though.
Good stuff, you know? It's good stuff.
Yeah. We got any more questions for me before I hit you with a question?
I don't really have any more questions.
Oh, okay. So that was your flashcard? That was the extent of your flashcard?
Yeah.
Oh. And here I was like mentally preparing, like, oh, he's going to hit me with a whole bunch of Universe Mode trivia questions. Or
See, so here's the thing. So I have more questions on my flashcard, but then I thought about time. I was like, you know what? These are going to take hours.
I mean, we can try one or two of them.
All right. Are you ready for the first one?
I know that we hit the hour mark, but we can try one or two of them. And then I'll hit you with like 2 questions, and then we'll do a part 2.
The biggest hurdle in your career so far?
That wasn't even a question. That sounded more like a statement. The biggest hurdle in your career.
If you had to think about what it is and why it was difficult, what would it be?
You talking like, okay, I'm asking this only because I'm trying to look for if there's anything
I'm
specific.
going to refer to strictly Universe Mode for now.
Okay.
And just your presence in terms of your YouTube career and your contribution to the space.
The biggest challenge so far? Two things stand out to me. Number one, the editing process to do everything, to make graphics, to edit it, to piece it all together, to do the commentary, to do the writing, there's so many intricate parts. Keeping track of stats, memorizing them, constantly rereading, rereading, and studying characters, movesets, names. There was so much homework, quote unquote, that I did that went into it. The process itself was such a challenge that I think that's also a little bit part of the challenge of getting back into it, is knowing that I have to do it all again. I have to get back into the process, even if it's just 10 episodes. I have to get back on the wheel and just do everything all over again. And it was such a routine, and now you're out of the routine. Yeah, I would say that's one of the biggest challenges is just the amount of time and dedication to it for 9 years, to make it all just function.
Right.
And then the second biggest challenge is not being so hard on myself. I don't know if
that's right.
You might already know this. I have never put so much stress on myself over something before, like Universe Mode, because I want everything to be perfect for everyone else. I want each match to be perfect. I want it all to end in this grand crescendo. I want this pay-per-view to be perfect. I want the storyline to flow properly. I want all these intricate pieces to just be perfect. And it creates so much mental stress and frustration internally when something goes wrong, when the wrong person wins the match, when you have to completely just scrap plans and rewrite everything. It's like, oh man, this didn't go perfectly. This didn't. It's such a cycle, because I have so many people telling me, don't stress, Matt, don't stress. You got nothing to stress about. No, I got everything to stress about.
Yeah.
Because I want everything to be amazing for every person that watches. I want them all to walk away and be like, nothing was missed. No mark, no stone was left unturned, even though I will miss
People
things.
can look back and be like, this is it. This was the show that really made me.
Yeah, it
feel
wasn't.
something.
It
Yeah.
wasn't the most watched product on YouTube. It wasn't this blockbuster hit that got me millions of subscribers or even 1,000, but it was something where the collective of people that watched it enjoyed it for what it was, and for anybody that finds it, they can walk away with something. I wanted everybody to have just a little bit of pieces of something.
I understand that 1,000%.
So those two things, stress and the workload. Next question.
Oh no, that was actually it. That was it.
that was the end of it. Wow.
Yeah, I looked at the question and I realized it was actually just the second half of a question I already asked you. So I was like, okay, I did my due diligence.
So, what, as several questions before I try and wrap it up, what has been kind of, and I didn't even get to ask Zero or Gex this, what moments stuck out for you that you enjoyed the most in universe mode? Like, as a product that you watched, like what's the kind of the moment that really stands out to you?
Watching your universe mode?
Yeah.
That's a good one. I'm trying to think back in my head,
I know it's been a while.
Oh man. You know what I will say? I don't think there's a moment. I think there's a person in the way that you've booked them. And it's wow. Whoa, brain. He was IC champion. A trademark IC champion at that. Wow, what is his name?
Trademark IC champion. Redhead?
No. Actually, maybe he wasn't a trademark IC champion. He was just someone big who held the IC champion.
One of the longest reigning?
And I think he retired him too.
Let me pull up my champions list real quick.
I feel like it starts with a C. Classpar.
Oh, Classpar. That is an interesting one.
Just the way that, and you know what's crazy? When I first saw him, I didn't like him, but over time, I was like, okay, I'm actually thoroughly enjoying what you're doing with him, and that's probably one of the highlight moments is to go from disliking someone to liking someone. I'm like, okay, that takes skill.
So,
or the tag team that runs the yard, yeah.
The Hitmen?
Yeah, the Hitmen.
Oh my gosh, Road Killer and Slim Reaper, dude. Oh my gosh, you hit me with two guys that are three people that are so awesome. So Panda, the guy who made Classpar, I would love more than anything. So fun fact, he and I have never spoken through voice, but we've known each other since 2016. I want this man so badly to be on this because there's so much that I know that we could talk about in terms of wrestling, in terms of universe mode, in terms of history. There's so many stories I have of him.
Right.
That are so much fun because, like, for example, I didn't like the character when he joined. Like, I myself thought this isn't going to work. And it reflects in the booking where you see it and it's just like, dude, whatever, I'll just do this with him. And that was pretty much his NXT career. I felt I didn't really give it a chance, and then it really started to turn around when I was like, ooh, let me try. Let me put him on Raw.
Right.
Let me fight him. And then he and I had a stellar match. I was like, dude, this character can be something if I just lean into it, if I just give it everything. And what's crazy is it had so many evolutions. It went from aristocrat to underdog, kind of fighting underneath, to world champion, to getting kicked off the mountain and trying to find a way back on top, getting released, coming back as like a mob boss.
Yeah.
A secret mob boss, and then taking back his place, becoming a faction leader, kind of like Evolution, except only young guys with him, and then it leading into him retiring, capping off his career, and becoming a mentor for this new generation of Austin and Ryan, where it comes full circle, where you spend 4 seasons where he builds up these young guys. It turns into these 3 guys, one becoming a big bad villain and the other 2 building them up into your biggest baby faces to a crescendo. Oh my gosh. He and I there's so many writing pieces that he helped me with, from NXT to SmackDown to Raw to how the Dynasty is booked, and kind of how we wanted the story to end, to where I owe the man so much. And to turn, it's a reminder that you should never just brush something aside. You should really just try and analyze it and think, okay,
do the best that you can with it. What can I take from it? How can I pivot it?
Yeah, how can I tweak it in a way that makes me interested in it? What can I do to it? Because I looked at it and I just thought, this is a William Regal thing. This is a Triple H knockoff.
But I think that's the nature of it when it becomes your job, is like you have to fall in love with each project you're given and be like, how can I make this trash turn into gold?
I shouldn't say it was trash.
I'm not referring to that specific idea, but I'm just referring to, like, in general.
Yeah. where you're trying to make something into it, and then what's crazy is it just, through the hard work of working with him, we turned it from something that I didn't believe in, is what I'm truly getting at. I didn't believe in Classpar at first. And through his hard work and through my eventual willingness to give this something and try to work with it, the fruits that profited from it have been exponential. I mean, he's turned it into EC3 being seen as a main event caliber threat, as a villain. He's turned Austin Arrogance and Ryan Trapp into top tier talent stars. He's given this whole beginning and birth to the Ryan Trapp and the Trapp family war that's been going on. Like, he's given that window, and he won't take all that credit, but because of him, all this leads into stuff. And the fact that he's given back to the series, not just with his own character but others, is so much fun. And as far as the Hitmen, dude, that is a story in of itself. How the Hitmen came to be and everything else. And those 2 guys will never, the real life guys behind it, they'll never do this podcast. I can tell you that.
That's fair. That's fair.
Both of them I'm still in close contact with. Rogue Killer, the man behind the character, doesn't really care about wrestling at all. He has no particular interest in it. The 2 of them are still, they are the only 2 guys that I know personally beforehand that joined the series. Like, they were actually like they're real life friends of mine. They're the only ones, and for anybody that says, well, you gave a lot of favoritism to them, you can make that argument, but damn, the guy behind,
if it was bad, it would have stopped. But it's too bad it was iconic.
Slim Reaper, the guy behind him, he loves wrestling. He doesn't watch it as much. Very quiet individual. He had a lot of good ideas when he and I spoke. To be fair, he was just more so like, yeah, whatever you want to do, man. We'll make the characters and whatever you want to do. But he would be like, oh yeah, can we try and get the tag team titles? And then he'll watch the matches and be like, yeah, it was good. Like, and it was a reaffirming of like, all right, what can we tweak here? Yeah, I can, like, whatever you want to do. He gave me a lot of, basically, like, this was the genesis of the idea, and he gave me a lot of room until, yeah, you can evolve it if you want. The only downside was when he wanted to retire the character, just when things went insane. So, like, Bullet Club came into a thing and was huge. Like, it started gaining traction, and then the Hitmen joined it. And then right when they joined, he was like, dude, I'm not really, I feel like I've kind of done everything in your series. Can I just get, like, a rebooted character named Clamp God? And that bombed. Right. That character bombed. So I pushed Clamp God away. And then eventually it was one text. So when they reformed in season 7, that season 7 Royal Rumble, it was, like, I think a month out And I texted him, and I said, listen, man, I know that Slim Reaper was retired, but I wanted to ask you, are you okay with me bringing this character back to do one more, like, larger run with Rogue Killer? Because I really feel like this could be something, and I think it would be like a genuine awesome surprise. And to his credit, he gave me one text back, and I'll never forget it. He said, yeah, sure, man, absolutely. Have fun with it. That was basically the text.
And then, boom, we take off to the races.
Yeah, immediately it was like, hey, man, I'll send you images of what the character looks like. I'll try and copy over the moveset. I'll do these, I'll do all this for you. I got you. You don't need to worry about a thing. And he just looked at it, said, yeah, works for me. And we brought him back at the Rumble for a legit surprise for a lot of people. And we had a great final run. I do wish their one-on-one match at WrestleMania was better, but without that, dude, I got to make Slim Reaper a two-time United States champion. I got to give him a second run. Got to give them another tag team run. I got to give him or him specifically, a world title run for 2 episodes. Like, it was so much fun to get to do that, because if he never said yes, none of that would have happened, and I had so much fun with it. I love the Slim Reaper Rogue Killer dynamic. They're the tag team that never broke up. They never backstabbed each other in my series. They never turned on each other for 9 seasons that they were together, and they dominated.
Yeah.
Was it a little bit boring? I mean, at times, but their title reigns were always memorable, and they decisively, very decisively, mind you, hold the record for most episodes as champions. I don't think that's getting touched. I think that's pretty
Truly
much
something special for sure.
You're just saying that to blow smoke up my rear end.
No, I genuinely believe it was something special.
What's funny is those 3 guys are the top 3 longest reigning champions in Universe Mode.
Well, you did a good job.
Thank you. Rogue Killer was at 212 episodes as a champion. Slim Reaper's at 150, and then Classpar, off the top of my head, was 138. Let's go. I was right. Let's go, man. I still have it. I still have my memorization down. I haven't looked at that thing in months. That's crazy.
But the memory...
I can't believe I dotted that.
Rent free.
Yeah. I can't believe I got that. Well, I'm glad you said that. That means a lot, that there were characters that stick with you. Yeah, the fact that you listed not one person, but 3 means a lot, because that tells me that I did good in giving characters, even though they weren't mine, ensuring that characters aren't forgotten.
Right.
It's one thing to use a roster of already made characters. It's another thing to take what's been given to you
and create value out of it. Yeah,
because those were the biggest challenges. Not making my own characters, because that was a challenge.
But giving those new characters star power from the ground up.
Legit. I mean, the biggest task was, how do I make these people matter? And there's so many questions that I ask myself when I'm trying to book stuff, but I really try to boil it down to these questions when people said that they wanted to join my series.
Right.
And I might be repeating some stuff for some people who are listening to this. Who are you, and why should somebody stay and give a crap? It's a very harsh way to put it, but because ultimately...
But it's real. It's real, though.
We're playing a video game. Who are they? What's their story? And why do they matter? Why should this matter to a viewer that's watching me play a video game?
Right.
Let's give this some substance, because I'm not doing this. This character is this edgy backstory, or there's no backstory, you just do whatever. Okay, well, I need something. I want to tell something with this character. What is it? Because I want this character to matter.
Right.
And then how do I then take this guy or this woman and make them feel legit. Like, believable. Because you're this is the crazy thing. You're in a fictitious reality, writing a story to make people care about these fictitious characters, to see them as top-tier talents against these other fictitious characters.
Right, and continue to tune in every week and
Right.
Yeah, it's
and make it feel believable. I mean, that's
yeah. It is crazy because as you say it out loud, like what the goal and objective are, it's like, all right, I guess.
And people, dude, the people that I've turned away or have been turned away because of my questions. I'd play the game of 20 questions with people before I even say yes or no to whether I want the character in. I've turned down easily a dozen people to join the series. Just because they either wouldn't give me something or they just were like, you're thinking too much into this. It's like, this is how I do it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. This is how I
run my yard.
And we've been talking about this on a tangent for 15 minutes, and I barely scratched the surface into the level of thought process that goes in every character. I haven't even talked about the booking, the writing for each show, the day-to-day operations, how I scheduled everything, how did I execute everything, how did I edit everything, how did I go into attire making, the music choices. Haven't gotten into any of that. But it's a reminder that it is not an easy job, and if you take it seriously, it's not easy.
Right.
And dude, you know from RW, I mean, it's a labor in the creative process and the execution of everything. If you take it seriously,
the amount of clips I have on my computer of me just talking.
I mean, the promos alone
called RW is hilarious.
Well, like the promos alone from you, like it's not an easy walk in the park for anybody. And I know Gex and Zero didn't really go into it as much. I mean, we touched on it, but like the stuff behind the scenes to make the cog and the machine work is, if you take it seriously enough, is insane. And it's a lot of fun. As long as you don't get stressed out by it like I do. But there is nothing more fun.
Now it becomes iconic, and now it has a place to sit and to start to create nostalgia.
I don't know if anybody... is anybody at that point with nostalgia for my series?
You never know. Who knows? It's at some point. This is how I believe when it comes to like working in the media side of like anything. At some point, someone's going to reach out and be like, "Hey, during a bad day, I cut on your video." And I think that's an objective that I feel like as content creators we should keep at the forefront of, like, someone's going to reach out and be like, hey, this was something they chose to watch during a bad day.
So funny you mentioned that. I had this really brief story. Crazy connection. I got this like a week or two ago. One of my friends, he texts me and he's like, "Hey, Mad." He texted me, "Hey, Mad." Hey, my real name. There's a guy I met, or that I have like this class with, and he said that he knows you. I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, I talked about you and how you run this YouTube channel, and he actually watched your old videos but doesn't know you at all. Like, he never met you. He just watched your old videos."
That's crazy.
And he's like, he would love to be on the podcast. And I said, okay, give him my Instagram and send me a message. He hasn't sent me a message yet, so I don't know the guy. I don't know if we'll do the podcast, but legit,
just to have that interaction.
Oh, agreed. Very crazy connection, because I'm under the impression of, you look at your subscriber list and you're like, 697. Like, that's not a high number. The odds that somebody, I mean, I said it with you. The odds that somebody, that I can meet a fan of mine, or at least somebody that watched the product in person, is so low, like it's not gonna happen. Psh.
Right.
And then we met, which was cool. We should totally meet again if we can.
Definitely.
We
Try to
haven't.
get that in the works.
I can get you a printed off poster or whatever.
Viewers, if you want to do the in-person stream, make sure you subscribe to his Patreon. I believe it's at $4.99. We'll send you the link.
That is wild because I don't have a Patreon. Oh my gosh. Well, we have definitely gone way over time, and it feels like progressively the DDT podcast has turned into a slowly incrementally longer podcast. We definitely need to do a part 2 because there's still so many questions that I want to ask you.
Absolutely.
I mean, shoot, we could talk about in real life wrestling, just the products. But I have 2 more questions for you, and probably only one. I don't know if you'll be able to answer the second one. But
I'm trying to be mindful.
What is your Mount Rushmore of WWE? And if you have a Mount Rushmore for Call, the creator wrestler community, even though I know you've said that you're not really as in it like Blackwire, that community, or any of those others. But if you have one, you can list it out. But what is your Mount Rushmore?
So my Mount Rushmore for real life wrestling, does it have to be WWE?
No, it can be anybody. I don't limit it. You can set up whatever parameters you want.
So I usually like to pick people who have tenure as a wrestler and like are veterans, but recently I think my new Mount Rushmore, because of the way they encapsulate real life characters, if I'm being honest, the top 5 off the top of my head that I just can't get out of my head. Number 1, AJ Styles. It has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Kenny Omega. I don't care what anyone says about him. That man can work no matter what size you are, no matter who you are, no matter where you are. It's just something that can't be taken away from him. Number 3, call me crazy, Hangman Adam Page has grown on me to be a household name. From the beginning of the storyline to being a drunk, to lacking confidence, to now being this batshit crazy cowboy, Hangman's at number 3. Now, number 4 and 5, I have to really think deeply about who I want up there, because I can think about it from a nostalgia standpoint when I first started watching wrestling, but I think I'm going to stick with emotional factor and where do I see them in longevity, and I'm going to have to put Swerve Strickland up there. He encapsulates a villain so well, and not even a villain that's a heel, but just I'm going to take everything from you. He just has this Killmonger cool vibe, and it doesn't come off corny or cheesy. It just comes off like he's just a stone cold killer. He's smooth, and it just rolls off the tongue. It's digestible. And number 5, I'm going to give it to top dog, the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. I can't deny where that man has started from to where he is now. He carried a brand on his back, and I can't take that from him at all. And for Call, so my top 5, I don't think I have 5. I really don't think I have 5. But I know I have 2. And the reason why I choose these 2 is because that's kind of what got me into getting the wrestling games. And there's this tag team that used to be out on YouTube. And they used to be doing highlight reels and clips. And they were a tag team. And they were called, what were they? Dang, what was their tag team called? I don't know. I don't remember what the Premier. They were called the Premier. And it was WWE 13. And they used to do a tag team combo montage. And I think the 2 names were Moonstar and Why So High. And they had constant changing outfits. And they had all these combos that they would do in 13 and then 14 and then 12. And so from a cause standpoint, those are the only 2 names at the top of my head where I'm yeah, they're one of the ones. Because I don't think anyone has capsulated the crossover from real life wrestling to 2K in such a way and how they move in the ring yet. And if I do find someone who does that, they can go on that list as well. But for right now, those are the 2 that I'm going to stick with.
I gotcha. That's very fair. Then, in that case, we'll try and wrap it up. If you want to, where can everyone find you?
So, if I can do my super plug-in, y'all can come follow me on Twitch at TVG Bundy. I be streaming there. I stream Elden Ring right now. The schedule's a little crazy because of work and everything, but I do stream once a week on Fridays. If you want to look at my anime manga content, you can find me at TVG Hero on YouTube. I just dropped 2 videos. Make sure you stay tuned. If you want to find me somewhere else, you can check the comments of Mad Lauder 53. Make sure you subscribe to him so you can see where I'm commenting at, and definitely go check out those videos so you can see where I'm lurking.
I appreciate the plug. That's crazy. Oh man, if you do any kind of anime content, then we might have some more stuff outside of WWE to talk about. I'd have to do a different
I don't know if
name
I
for the
showed you this.
podcast.
We haven't talked in so long. I have a literal bookshelf of manga volumes now.
Okay. Well, like after this podcast, I'm gonna have to step off, but we definitely need to talk. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I think you would enjoy it.
Alrighty. So with that said, thank you first and foremost, Bundy, for tuning in. I appreciate you not only doing the hour, but doing the hour and a half long podcast that it's turned into.
No problem.
Appreciate you, and I'm so glad that we got to be able to do this and also sync back up and talk again. I'd love to do a second one with you. You've been an excellent guest. Not only the NXT Tag Team Champion in my universe mode, but also the current SmackDown Tag Team Champion. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, as well, to everyone who's tuned in the podcast. I hope you learned something about the two of us. Definitely different styles to all 3 guests so far. Leave a comment down below on who you think should, whether it's yourself or whether it's somebody else that you would recommend me trying to get onto the show. Or what you think about Bundy, or any other questions that you might additionally have that we could ask in the future. But with that said, thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel, of course, if you choose. Be sure to check out his stuff as well on Twitch and YouTube. And most important, as always, suit up, Mad Army. I'll see you all next time in the next video and on the DDT Podcast.
Woo!